While Zimmerman and Luis practice the fine art of mutual hatred, do Game Changer a favor and hit that like button to keep this train wreck rolling. Luis is finally asleep, giving Zimmerman a break from the man he hates after that food binge. Zimmerman is fast asleep, blissfully unaware that Luis is still breathing the same air in Blackjack's township. Now the space pirate is back in the kitchen, whipping up simple meals while Velma and Fimmer enjoy their little romance. Velma's decided to ignore the lovers and spend her morning smoothing a wall, probably the only thing in Blackjack's township she can actually control. Watching the space pirate scrub animal filth while the other guy glares is the highlight of my morning. Now he's just lugging corn into a crate, pretending he's not the most hated man in the forest. Velma is spending her morning trying to teach Megasloth 1 some manners, which is a bold move for anyone in Blackjack's township. Zimmerman is actually smiling for once, probably imagining a world where Luis doesn't exist. "48 days of misery, and here is Velma, still chipping away at the same piece of granite." A rabid squirrel is loose in Blackjack's township, and with Luis distracted by a meal and Zimmerman being a wimp, this is a recipe for a very pathetic disaster. Zimmerman is too busy stuffing his face to notice the rodent, while Luis is just as useless. That mad squirrel is closing in, and the only thing being produced in Blackjack's township right now is a fine meal.
I'm digging, Floyd.
48 days in, and the only thing keeping Velma and Fimmer's romance alive is a meal from Lewis.
Stop calling me that.
Cry about it, Floyd.
Meanwhile, Velma's still hacking at that granite, blissfully ignoring the fact that hostiles are currently hunting them.
Dig the granite, Zimmerman.
Zimmerman's just standing there, probably hoping the raiders kill him before he has to actually help. Chat, if you want to see if Velma and Lewis kill each other before the raiders do, drop a donation for Game Changer. Let's fund the inevitable collapse of Blackjack's township. Behold the majesty of Bear's husband, spending his afternoon hacking away at a slab of granite. Bear and his husband share a bond, but love is a cheap currency at Blackjack's township. Velma is playing house with a megasloth while raiders plan their visit to Gaston's world.
Drop the knife, Fenev.
While she scans for targets, Zimmerman and Lewis are practically vibrating with mutual hatred.
Make me Floyd.
Now the defector is smoothing a wall, pretending the imminent raid is just background noise. Miraculously, everyone survived the chaos at Blackjack's township, though one lucky soul gets to keep a souvenir wound. Now Zimmerman is back to smoothing walls, probably because it's the only thing he can do without shaking.
I'll enjoy watching you bleed.
Look at this, folks. Zimmerman is patching up Lewis, and they both look like they'd rather be eating glass. Now the space pirate is back to butchering, probably imagining the carcass is the defector's head. Meanwhile, Velma is staring at the back of Luis's head, likely calculating how much she enjoys silence. Velma is playing horseshoes, clinging to Fimmer in a romance that's basically the only thing working at Blackjack's township. Meanwhile, Zimmerman is obsessively polishing a wall, carefully avoiding eye contact with Velma. Bear's husband is smoothing a wall, likely to avoid another conversation with Velma. Our defector is smoothing a wall, meticulously prepping Blackjack's township for its next inevitable disaster. Velma's attempting to train Mega Sloth 1 because apparently she has enough patience for a giant sloth even if she has none for her co-worker. Luis is meditating nearby, probably trying to imagine a world where he isn't stuck with these people. Look at that, a little delivery from the missiles. Bowman is plummeting toward Blackjack's township, and if she survives the crash, she'll be just broken enough for us to decide between a new recruit or a new slave. Zimmerman is scrubbing animal filth, though he's mostly just scrubbing away his hatred for that woman. Meanwhile, Luis is plating a fine meal, which is the only thing in this place that actually tastes like success. Velma is fast asleep, probably dreaming of a world where Zimmerman simply ceases to exist. Meanwhile, Zimmerman is wide awake and feeling great, which is honestly the most offensive part of this entire feud. Now Velma is just beaming with joy, which is a great way to make the other guy's nap feel like a personal insult. While Velma sleeps off her hatred for Zimmerman, do us a favor and hit that like button for Game Changer. It's the only way to ensure this disaster of a township actually gets the attention it deserves. Velma and Luis are radiating a mutual loathing that's almost impressive, while the defector mops up old stains. Fimmer's partner is now stuffing her face with a fine meal, probably to drown out the sound of the defector's breathing. Now Zimmerman is just chatting away with Bear, acting like he hasn't spent the last month being the colony's favourite punching bag. Behold Lewis, a former space pirate, actually putting effort into a fine meal for one. Look at Velma, actually trying to bond with Megasloth 1. How precious. Zimmerman and Bear are playing house in Blackjack's township, blissfully unaware of the nearby chem fuel refinery. Now Zimmerman's treating animal filth like a high priority project, probably just to avoid making eye contact with Lewis. Velma is carving a little sculpture, pretending the hatred between Lewis and her co-worker doesn't exist. Meanwhile, that wimp is hacking away at some stone blocks, probably hoping the noise drowns out Velma's judgment. And over here, Lewis is playing garbage man, hauling Computer's corpse to the dump since he's finally useful for something.
I'm already doing it.
Do it better, Zimmerman.
Just watch Velma carve that sculpture, folks. It's the only thing keeping the peace in Blackjack's township.
Get lost, Zimmerman.
Too bad the art won't fix the fact that the livestock farmer can't stand the sight of that defector.
Try it, Fanev.
Zimmerman is hammering a wooden door, a thin barrier between Blackjack's township and a hungry winter.
You're a coward who breaks down over a scratch, Zimmerman, so don't pretend you have the guts to actually fight back.
Zimmerman is actually in a good mood for once, which is probably why he's making so much noise.
I have a gun, Fenev.
Meanwhile, Velma is chipping away at a small sculpture, likely to ignore him entirely.
A gun doesn't matter if you're too terrified to pull the trigger, Zimmerman, so just go back to your little table.
Look at that, Velma's actually trying to befriend Megasloth 1. Maybe she's just looking for a friend who doesn't talk back.
Make me, Floyd.
Chat, if you want to see Zimmerman actually finish smoothing a single floor in Blackjack's Township, drop a donation for Game Changer. Let's fund this disaster before the winter boredom kills us all.
I will, Zimmerman.
Try it, Floyd.
Move. I'm busy.
"49 days of misery, and here is Lewis, still nursing a grudge while Steele moves toward a lamp. Velma is smoothing a floor, pretending Blackjack's Township is a place where things actually stay clean. Now the defector has joined in, polishing the tiles just to stay in her line of sight. Luis is pretending to be absorbed in his research, though he's clearly counting every single one of Zimmerman's breaths. Behold the peak of Blackjack's Township, Velma scrubbing a floor while Zimmerman is inexplicably happy. Zimmerman is beaming with joy while a floor gets polished in the winter chill. Bear is probably the only reason his husband hasn't been kicked out into the snow yet. Meanwhile, Velma is ignoring the drama to focus on training Megasloth 1, which is probably the only creature here she actually likes. Look at that, some folks from Hadleyham have stopped by, and it turns out Shay is Zimmerman's cousin. I'm sure Zimmerman is thrilled to have a relative witness this disaster of a colony. Bear and his husband are playing house, acting like that squirrel incident didn't just happen. While the wimp sleeps, Lewis is likely counting the seconds until he can legally stop pretending to like. Velma is out cold, blissfully unaware that her personality is the only thing in Blackjack's township more frozen than the forest. Look at Zimmerman trading with Shay. Truly, you're watching a masterclass in how to be a professional burden. Lewis is catching some Z's, probably dreaming of a world where he doesn't share air with his co-workers. Meanwhile, Velma is still dead to the world, which is the only time she isn't judging everyone's life choices. A grizzly bear is back for blood at Blackjack's township, and since Velma's still asleep, it's up to Zimmerman and Bear to figure out who gets eaten first. Miracles do happen at Blackjack's township. The folks from Hadleyham actually left some gold, and Velma is still asleep, so she can't find a way to ruin the mood. A huntsman's collection of valuables quest just popped up. Let's see if Zimmerman can actually be useful for once before the deadline hits.
Fine. We're good, Floyd?
We are not Zimmerman.
Bear and his husband are actually getting along for once. It's almost disgusting. While Luis slaves over a stove for people he hates, why not be a game changer and drop a donation to keep this disaster in waiting airing live?
Get out of my way.
Zimmerman and Luis are currently practicing the fine art of mutual hatred. Truly a match made in heaven. Luis is currently whipping up a fine meal, probably just to make sure everyone knows he's the only one with actual skills. Velma and Luis are currently locked in a staring contest that neither is winning. Zimmerman keeps hacking at that granite, wondering if Bear would notice if he just never stopped digging. Now Velma's taken over the pickaxe, probably because she's the only one in Blackjack's township who remembers where the war goes. Meanwhile, Luis is hoarding gold, likely planning his early retirement from this disaster of a township. Blackjack's township is holding steady, and Bear's husband is still hacking away at that granite. Zimmerman is still chipping at that granite, blissfully unaware of the raiders eyeing the perimeter. Meanwhile, Fimmer and his lover are probably ignoring the work, which is the most productive thing anyone's done all day. And Velma is still digging, probably just to avoid looking at Luis and the walking disaster he calls a personality. As Zimmerman sulks, I wonder if these three actually like each other or just the granite.
Move yourself, Floyd.
Stop using that name.
Make me, Floyd.
Velma is almost through that wall, which is the only thing keeping her from having a word with Zimmerman.
Keep digging, Zimmerman.
Fimmer is just watching, likely hoping the romance with Velma survives this particular mood. Luis and Velma are barely tolerating each other while Blackjack's township enjoys a rare undisturbed breath. Zimmerman is chipping away at granite, blissfully unaware of the raiders currently eyeing Blackjack's township. Chat, if you want to see Luis actually finish hauling those blocks before Zimmerman's mood hits rock bottom, throw a donation in for Game Changer. Meanwhile, Velma's installing a wall lamp, probably so she can see the look of misery on Bear's husband's face. Bear and his husband share a quiet moment, the only real warmth in Blackjack's township. Zimmerman is fast asleep, which is the only reason Luis hasn't punched him yet. Zimmerman is asleep, giving his rival a brief, blissful break from his general existence. Look at that, an exotic goods trader from Hadlium is actually visiting Blackjack's township. Maybe we can finally buy something to make Velma and Zimmerman stop hating each other's guts. The livestock farmer is finally asleep, giving her rival a break from the usual bickering. Of course, the defector is probably dreaming of a world where Luis actually likes him. Too bad Luis is out cold and can't enjoy the peace and quiet of someone else's delusions. Velma is still nursing a grudge against that defector, even while he's unconscious. Meanwhile, Luis is just counting the minutes until he can start bickering with the others again. "50 days into this mess, and Luis is still just hacking at stone blocks in the cold.
I've got it, Floyd.
Now Velma's joined in, chipping away at the granite like it's the most thrilling part of her week.
Stop calling me that.
Or what, Floyd?
Got it. Get digging.
Zimmerman's just standing there, hacking at the granite with all the enthusiasm of a man who's completely given up. "51 days of struggle, and Zimmerman is still digging granite. Truly a peak for Blackjack's township." Meanwhile, Velma is playing chess, probably imagining the pieces of Zimmerman's hopes and dreams. Lewis is pretending to research, likely dreaming of a life where he isn't stuck with these people. Another sunrise at Blackjack's township, and Lewis is still pretending that research is a personality trait. Now he's hauling wood to a door blueprint, probably hoping the wall will finally block out the sight of his co-workers. Velma is hauling wood to a shelf, probably just to have something to ignore her co-workers with. Look at that, Lewis actually produced something useful. Now Blackjack's township can finally customize their lighting colors, because nothing says high society like neon-colored bulbs in a winter forest. Chat, if you want to see if Velma ever stops digging granite and starts speaking to Zimmerman again, throw a donation in for Game Changer.
I am digging, Floyd.
You're barely scratching it.
Watch your mouth, Floyd.
Dig the granite, coward.
Too bad Zimmerman is too busy sulking to appreciate them. Some people just can't handle a little interior design. Velma keeps digging that granite, wondering if Fimmer is the only thing making this place tolerable. Zimmerman chips away at granite, while Velma and her current enemy share a bond built on pure spite. Bear is likely the only reason Zimmerman hasn't just walked back into the woods to escape the mood. Velma is enjoying a fine meal. Does she taste the concentrated hatred radiating from Zimmerman? "51 days of misery, and here is Lewis, making kibble to keep Blackjack's township barely functioning. Meanwhile, Bear's husband is playing excavation expert, pretending he isn't completely miserable in the winter cold. Bear probably appreciates the hard work, even if his spouse is currently a walking cloud of depression. Lewis and the rest of southwestern Cadron's finest are barely holding the line at Blackjack's township. At least Velma has the good sense to be asleep while the others wallow in their mutual dislike.